I didn't mean to walk into the wrong hospital room. I was just a night custodian with a kid on my hip and worry in my throat, pushing a door. I thought said ICU waiting, stepping into a suite with soft city light on the floor. And there he was, sleeves rolled, eyes tired, looking straight at me and saying, steady as if we'd planned it, stay. I've been waiting for you. Yeah, that happened. And if you're wondering how a man like Ronan Vale ends up waiting on a woman like me, Danny Rhodes, well, you're not the only one asking. 2 nights earlier, I was doing rounds in the tallest building in Harbor City, 52 floors of glass, and whispers my little girl Charlie in her red dress, hopping from tile to tile, our cleaning cart, rattling like an old friend. And I'll be honest, people see a uniform and they think they know you. Invisible until there's a spill, forgettable as a light switch, you know what I mean. We were ahead of schedule. The executive memo said, go up after 11:25 when the floor is dark, but a line of light under the corner office door pulled my daughter like a lighthouse. And before I could press the elevator, she was already in the hallway saying hello, with the confidence of a kid who believes in cookies and kindness. Ronan was a headline come to life. The man finance podcasts said didn't blink the one who could price a merger just by looking at the river. But up close, he looked like somebody who'd been carrying a storm tie off jaw-tight eyes as sharp as winter and just as lonely. Charlie offered him one of our sunshine cookies. Nothing fancy, butter and brown sugar, and a little orange zest, and told him they made heavy feelings lighter, and the wildest thing happened. He believed her enough to try. He chewed everything in his face, eased, and I swear I heard a room that had been holding its breath finally exhale. It's good, he said, almost surprised, and Charlie shrugged. Like, of course it is. My mama bakes with intention. That's the secret ingredient. I apologized, ready for a lecture, ready to lose hours or worse, and he just shook his head and said, you didn't bother me, you reminded me breathing is an option. The next night, the top floor glowed again. We planned to wave and keep moving. He met us at the door, like he'd been listening for the elevator. Sleeves rolled, smile, trying to remember how to exist, and invited us in for hot chocolate, because in his words, the machine needs supervision. We sat on expensive carpet with our backs to the glass. Harbor City blinking below like a living thing, and my daughter gave him a TED talk on recess politics, while I tried not to say out loud how being underestimated builds a certain kind of muscle, how a person can be kind and still be tired, how sometimes the people who never see you are not cruel, just crowded by their own storms. He listened like CEOs don't always listen, not nodding to be polite, but leaning in to understand. And when I finally said it, that I'm used to being the last one in a room to be seen, he said quiet like it was a vow, you won't be the last one I see. Third day, everything cracked. His company got hit with a leak on the Aurora freight deal, and the building vibrated with it, phones screaming, board members circling like hawks. And then my phone rang with something worse. My grandmother Pearl had collapsed at breakfast. I drove to St. Barrow like every stoplight was an insult, dragged Charlie through the lobby, took a wrong turn, opened the door to that soft-lit suite. And there he was, the man everyone said only chose war, saying stay like my name was stitched into that chair. Security had texted him. They'd listed Vanguard North as employer contact. He'd left the boardroom and come to the hospital. He talked to the doctor about clot windows and scales while I forgot how to breathe. He covered the bills. Without a speech, he knelt so Charlie could ask if the machines felt pain. He put a blanket I didn't know I needed across my shoulders and said, I'm not going anywhere. The board called mid-chaos. I could hear Whitaker through the speaker spitting glass. If we don't make an example, we invite mutiny, and Reddick, adding that softness, was how men like Ronan fall. And Ronan watched me watch monitors and said into the phone, calm as a surgeon, we'll investigate, we'll fix the system. We won't burn down people's lives to prove we have teeth. Then he hung up and laughed once at his own nerve like a man who had finally chosen which hill he'd die on. Pearl stabilized, thank God, and he asked me questions no one in a corner office had ever asked. What makes the day heavy for the people who clean my floors? What lifts it? And I told him the truth. Late buses that cost you hours, supervisors who use rules as weapons, daycare that collapses if one grandma catches a cold, names not learned, faces not seen, and within a week, he walked into a board meeting and announced comprehensive health coverage, emergency, family leave, child care, stipends, tuition, help, mental health counseling, not as charity, but as infrastructure, and the room just about fainted. "This is irresponsible," Whitaker snapped. "You're turning us into a social experiment," and Ronan said, "Maybe the experiment is proving that treating humans like humans pays off," which I won't lie made me smile so hard my face hurt. Here's your middle twist because life loves those. The investigation ended, and it wasn't a saboteur trying to tank the stock. It was Matteo, a junior analyst with a 4-year-old, who needed surgery. Insurance wouldn't touch. He had sold a file out of panic and shame, and when he confessed, he shook like his bones might come apart. Whitaker wanted cuffs. Reddick wanted a press tour that tasted like blood, and Ronan looked at me across a table where 1,000 cold decisions had been made and said, "We're not calling the police," then laid out a consequence that looked like repair. Claw back. What we can lock down the gaps we created, suspend Matteo without pay, move him into compliance under supervision, after pay for the kid's surgery, draw a line that mercy is not the same as permission. The internet had a field day. Of course it did. Half the city called it compassion, the other half called it chaos. And I'm not going to pretend I didn't hear the whispers in my own hallways about my promotion to facilities supervisor. Love to everyone who thought dating the CEO came with a cheat code. But I took the job because I earned it and plan to prove it every day. Meanwhile, culture shifted like the building had changed. Air filters, people started learning names. Birthdays showed up on whiteboards. Elevators got friendlier. And on a Tuesday that smelled like flour and second chances. I walked into his break area and found Ronan with an apron on hair dusted white, holding out a lopsided cookie like a peace offering. "Don't laugh," he said. "Charlie gave me the recipe I'm trying, and I bit into it, and tasted a man attempting tenderness, which is a flavor you do not forget. We didn't crash into a fairy tale. We did the harder thing. We told the truth and kept showing up. Pearl called him my storm shelter and warned him money doesn't impress weather hands that hold steady do, and he took that like a blessing and a dare. He asked if we could build something that looked like a long table instead of a throne room. I told him I had a kid who needed a steady stepfather, not a headline. I told him bleach rooms and broken childcare live in my nightmares, and I don't hand over my peace cheap, and he said, "Then I'll earn it, not with speeches but with presence." So we did regular life, homework, hospital follow-ups, early meetings where he kept saying the unpopular thing, and one night on the 52nd, he opened a small velvet box and closed it again, because nerves are funny like that. And instead of a performance, he said, "I'm not here to rescue you. You already rescued yourself 1,000 times. I'm here because the way you keep promises is the map I want to live by." And I didn't answer right away. I let it sit until it felt true. Then I said yes. If you want an easy ending, we don't have one. A month later, the board floated a motion to remove him. The vote stalled by one. The papers called me the janitor who broke the kingdom, and then called me something worse. Some coworkers told me to my face that mercy invites trouble. Others hugged me near the vending machine, and Matteo comes by every Friday to shred documents and talk about policy like a man who understands what grace costs his little boy is healing. And when I roll my cart past the same men who used to study the floor, they say my name now. It's a small thing, it's everything. So tell me, Harbor City and everyone listening, was Ronan right not to press charges, or did we invite chaos? Is mercy a strategy or a liability? Have you ever been misjudged by your job title, your clothes, your accent? And did someone surprise you by choosing dignity over power? Drop your take in the comments, push back, argue. Tell me a time a small act of kindness cracked your armor or made you change your mind. And if this hit somewhere true, hit subscribe and share it with the person who taught you that the work of your hands can change more than floors. It can change the people who walk on them.